It was love at first sight. I didn't know what his name was, but it came to me not too long after. Fernie. Of course his name was Fernie. He was a little rabbit's foot fern that sat at the corner of a grocery store. To be honest, he really wasn't that remarkable. He cost about $3.99 compared to the other plants that were there with him. He really didn't look all that remarkable. He was this just tangled little mess, but I felt called to him, so I decided to buy him along with Mooney, which was this gorgeous moondrop plant from my dad's home country, Taiwan. So I brought both of them home, and to be honest, I gave Mooney a lot more attention and love. I just didn't see Fernie as a plant that really could grow into anything significant. So whenever I would have, small patches of sunlight that would come into my room, I always gave that to Mooney first. I gave him love, I gave him warm water first, I gave him the attention first. Fernie got what was left over. Whenever I would have a little patch of sunlight extra though, that would come into my room and I put Fernie under it, he was so insistent on growing that I could even see him move. So anyways, more days passed by, and COVID ended up hitting the world and hitting the US. And I made a decision at the time to move from New York to California back home, which was about a 4,000-mile drive. And I decided to drive that within 3 days. So unfortunately, Mooney did not survive the trip. Shortly after I arrived to California, he just died. But Fernie, on the other hand, even though he'd been thrown around and he'd been, squashed and he'd sat in the humidity of my car for 3 whole days, he survived. He started to brown, but he did survive. Now, it was at that point that I started to give him more attention and care. I started to see more potential in him. So I started watering him more. I gave him more sunlight. I gave him a lot more love. And now he has become such a lush, beautiful plant. I ended up repotting him not too long ago, which was actually a huge accomplishment because everything up until Fernie that my thumb touched ended up dying. So Fernie, made me really reflect on my own growth, and he taught me 3 lessons, in my own life. That is number 1. Growth comes slowly. Be patient with yourself. Sometimes you might be, checking in every day with yourself. Maybe there's an area in your life that you want to grow in, and you might be checking in and wondering, why am I not changing? Why am I not seeing this progress? To be honest, that's how I felt when I first made the decision to battle against my anxiety. A lot of you guys who have been following me know that I used to just be a total walking mess by the time I was 21 years old. I dealt with low self-image, low confidence, self-hate. I had an eating disorder, but above all, my anxiety was just so bad. It was crippling my day-to-day. But at 21 years old, I met a group of phenomenal entrepreneurs, and I made the decision that I was going to battle anxiety, not just for myself, but to be able to go out there, to all the other people who were dealing with the same things that I was, and to say, hey, if I could do it, you could too. I remember, I started reading up on everything to help me battle this. I was looking at self-image, people skills, confidence, even, eating habits. And I, was applying all this stuff, but, weeks went by, months went by, even years went by, and I saw no change. I remember feeling so exhausted at work because I was not only, battling against my own anxiety, but I was also trying to change the messages and the, the loops that were going on in my mind that was causing anxiety. I remember about 2 years into this journey, it was about March of 2018, and I just was so exhausted. I felt so crushed and so defeated. I was applying all this stuff and still felt so much anxiety. So I rushed to my car, before any other coworkers could catch me in a conversation. And I just started sobbing so hard. And I remember asking God, why is this still happening? I've been battling so hard. And, honestly, if I were to die right now, I would be okay with that because I'm just so tired. But I remember thinking, you know what, Lord, I believe that you have a plan for me, and I believe that you're going to use this to help me to be able to outreach to other people. So I kept on going. More years passed, months, days passed, and I still didn't see change until about my 5th year in, at the end of me being about 25 years old. That's where the momentum started to pick up. And, to be honest, today, I would say I'm anxiety free. What that doesn't mean that I never feel anxiety. There are days in the morning where sometimes I feel a little bit more anxiety than other days, which I think is normal, but it doesn't destroy me anymore. And thinking about that, if I decided to give up because I was looking at progress, during the day-to-day or the week to week or even the year to year, I would have given up because I didn't see any change. But the thing is, again, you have to be patient with yourself. Same thing with Fernie. If you're checking your Fern's growth progress every day, you're probably not going to see much change. But if you start checking, on a month-to-month basis or year-to-year basis, that plant that you're growing is just going to look so different, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So again, be patient with yourself. Growth is slow coming, but it does come. Number 2, make sure that you nurture yourself. I gave Fernie not only lots of water and lots of sunlight, but I started, intentionally giving him lots of love. And that's when he started to grow just the most lush leaves ever. And I thought about that and I realized, same thing with yourself. When you're growing, you really need to nurture yourself. Your fertilizer is audiobooks, podcasts, seminars, networking, associating with people who grow and stretch you. You constantly need to be stretching yourself and stretching your mind. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to stay stagnant for the rest of your life. Sometimes, the people around me are at work, I see people who are older than me and they, they're still in the same place that they were years ago because they're not fertilizing themselves. They're not stretching. They're not trying to learn and grow. So that's really important, like trying to grow a plant, like trying to grow Fernie. If I didn't water him, if I didn't give him sunlight and love, he would die. He would brown like Mooney. So just make sure that you're constantly fertilizing yourself. Number 3, don't lose sight of the journey. You're going to keep on growing and then years from now, you're going to look back and say, wow, I just totally don't recognize myself. Same thing with Fernie. I look at him now and I'm like, that plant does not cost $3.99. He costs so much more. So when you're on your growth journey, just keep in mind that, just remember why you're doing this and know that, as you continue to go on, you're going to look back and say, wow, like I, overcame that. Like I'm a completely different person. I am just getting started on my own growth journey, but I look back to where I was, at 21 years old. I was, again, just so anxious. I was introverted. I didn't know to talk to people without alcohol. My anxiety, my self-image was so bad that my medication for that every Friday and sometimes every Saturday was to not only drink but take drugs. And it just, I think back to that and I remember, many days, many years, even into the beginnings of that journey where it was so tough for me to be able to give myself love. I felt such loathing, because of where I was at and because, of how I felt about myself and how I just felt emotionally. But, now I look back at that and I'm like, wow, okay, the last thing I am is perfect. Like I have so many flaws. I have such a long ways to go and there's so many people further ahead than me, but I am not that broken girl anymore. It's crazy how much has changed in the last 5 years and how much will continue to change as I continue to grow, slowly and as I continue to nurture myself. So again, don't lose sight of the journey. You're going to keep growing. You're just going to find yourself transform. And that is what makes this so exciting. So I love you guys and hope this helped.